I'm Nikki, and this is a story about a wall, an artist, and an unexpected family connection that changed how I see both art and myself. There's a wall in a university in Scotland. Most people walk past without noticing. But the first time I stepped into Crush Hall at the Pathfoot building, Stirling University, it was the first thing I saw. Huge metallic repeating patterns, calming and quiet. I'd never seen anything like it. It stuck with me, and without meaning to, over the next 6 years, I kept coming back to it. At first, I didn't know what it was. Was it an artwork, an architectural feature of the building? Honestly, I didn't think to look. It was always just there, and it was a kind of anchor when everything felt overwhelming. I'm neurodivergent, and that wall became something I used to ground myself with pretty much every day.
I think when I first saw it, I wasn't immediately 100% sure that it was an artwork. I thought it may have been an architectural feature that had been installed as part of the building.
Exactly. It just lived in the space quietly, until one day I had to choose an artwork for a university assignment. That's when I started researching, and that's when I found Mary Martin.
Mary Martin was a pioneer, but hardly anyone knows her name.
In the 1950s and 60s, Mary was experimenting with structure, repetition, and light, way ahead of her time, but overlooked by today's standards.
There were a number of notable women constructivists, and it is to a degree, I think, sort of unique within the early 20th century isms for being much more. Women were prominent figures within the movement, and you don't see that. You don't see that in other avant-garde movements.
Mary was part of a movement, but also set apart. She built art that was structured but never cold, repetitive but never mechanical.
I think with my mother's work is, or maybe both my parents, is sort of, when you look at it, it can be off-putting. I mean, the more you look at my mother's work, the more, it's just not clinical, It's very sort of handmade.
Learning about Mary felt oddly familiar. The way she worked, the way she balanced family life with making art, it resonated more deeply than I expected.
I probably started actually looking at this work and probably at Mary's work in a kind of critical way, because, as I say, the prevailing trends at that point, and I started art school in 1991, this was diametrically opposed to what was fashionable at that point. And by the end of my studies, I loved this and I hated what was held to be fashionable.
And then something strange happened. I stumbled on a family link. My granddad, who I never met because he died the year I was born, was at the This Is Tomorrow exhibition in 1956 in London, where Mary and Kenneth Martin were displaying their work. I only discovered this recently through an old letter that he'd written to my dad at the time. The wall I kept returning to wasn't just an anchor for me, it was also a thread back to him. So why did this wall stay with me? Maybe because Mary's art was about repetition, structure, finding order in complexity. Maybe because it mirrored what I was searching for in myself. Or maybe it was something deeper, a kind of recognition, a connection across time, art, and family. Mary Martin's work may not be widely known, but it deserves to be. For me, her wall at Stirling isn't just an artwork, it's a character in my life, a quiet companion, a bridge to an artist I admire and to a grandfather I never knew. The wall that spoke to me. For the next few weeks, I'll be posting up the full interviews with the artists that appeared in this podcast, but also some others that I spoke to whilst researching Mary Martin. This podcast was created by Nicola Foley and hosted on Buzzsprout, with music and extra sound effects from Pixabay. Thank you for listening. I really appreciate you spending your time here, and I hope you'll join me again next time.